That is all the signed-up speakers we had. Anyone who hasn't spoken would like to speak, feel free to come to the mic. If anyone would like to make some short follow-up comments, please feel free to do so. Yes, sir.
I forgot to mention that I launched the stinker zone as a way for people to report odor complaints, and we had nearly 200 in the last 6 months that were emailed to me. And from what I can tell, of all the people that called the dump and reported to their hotline, only 3, I think, that were confirmed by the dump employees that arrived at the home as being from the dump. That virtually all of them are some other smell, or it has gone away. And so the numbers that Seneca Meadows reports should be taken into question, just given the percentage that are actually confirmed, which are tiny. And I haven't studied it scientifically, but we've had 200 emails about odor complaints from around the region.
Sir. So Jeff Burrier, Seneca Meadows. So every odor complaint gets reported to DEC. Without fail, they also get turned into the town once a month. It's all public record.
Whether they're confirmed by you or not?
Whether confirmed or not, they all get reported.
So do you report to those agencies when you confirm it was your odor, or you just report that these are their complaints?
So that's our opinion on the form. What we have to report is we had 150 complaints. We had 170 complaints this month. Without fail, it gets reported to the town and the state, exactly how it's reported.
I can't agree to that because Kyle Black just emailed us.
But what gets reported, I've seen them, is their opinion
Right.
of whether it
Sometimes
stinks there right
they
then.
smell it and sometimes they
No,
don't.
every single time. I have probably at least 10 or more reports in the month of August. There was a horrific burning rubber smell that woke me up at 1:30 in the morning through my air conditioner, by the way. I called and I reported the stink. Every single time they came out to our home, we don't smell anything, then I get the report. No odor detected. Let me finish, please. The very last report, though, now you have a new way of saying that. We checked the equipment. We investigated the equipment. What does that tell me, you investigated the equipment? I'm smelling the stench, and your workers are not. And am I angry? You betcha.
So to the gentleman's question, though, originally, he said we're not reporting all the complaints. Every complaint you call in gets logged by a third party and gets reported to the town and the state agency without fail. Whether it's a confirmed report or not, we have to report every single one.
I understand that, but when I called and I spoke to one of the managers, not Kyle Black, and I challenged the document that I received, well, you know, we can't, you know, if somebody comes out and they can't smell anything, that's not our problem. Well, where's your stinkometer then? Why don't you take your stinkometer out? Well, we can't use the stinkometer unless one of our workers reports that they smell the odor. I mean, you know what? We're not stupid. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out.
Ma'am, that's why we report every single complaint without fail.
Okay, that sounds like a
Do we have to contact New York State, or we contact you to get those lists of complaints?
The town has them right over here. The town has them.
Yeah, they're sent to the town once a month.
Great.
Come down and look at them at any time.
So my name's Pam Lewis. I live in the town of Seneca Falls on Kingdom Road. I'd just like to say that, you know, a lot of people have talked about health concerns, but yet no one has any proof regarding any health concerns. You know, that's part of what, you know, the proposed local law 7 is regarding. Health concerns, I mean, you're talking about things that, they're talking about cancer. Has anyone thought about the agricultural community? There was an article in the Finger Lakes Times about how Seneca Lake has diminished because of the agricultural community, and how that's taken, the fish have diminished in the lake because of the agricultural and the wineries. You know, is anyone concerned about the effects that the agricultural community or other businesses in the county have had on the health here? Why are we just concentrating on Seneca Meadows? There's other businesses in the community that may be affecting the health as well. Or how about the food that you're eating? There's way more chemicals, there's way more preservatives in the foods that people eat every day now. So as far as health concerns, you can blame that on a variety of different things. You can't just say it's from Seneca Meadows. Seneca Meadows has been here for years and years and years. There's no proof that it causes any health concerns. No one has any viable proof that it causes any health concerns. As far as the odors going, it's been said over and over again that we are working on the odor problems. That's something that we are maintaining. We're trying to keep, we're trying to keep controlling that problem. I just find that if you put local law 7 into place, we still don't have any information from the town board of what is exactly, how is that going to impact the community? What exactly is the tax rate going to be if local law 7 is put in place? What is it how much are my taxes going to increase? We have not seen any information regarding that. I'm a taxpayer. I live in Seneca Falls. I would like to know exactly how much my taxes will go up.
That information will be available to anyone who comes into the board office and asks for it. As I said before, I've given it to the Citizens Advisory Group, and I've given it to the concerned citizens, and I give it to anyone who asks and comes and sees me in my office. And I'm more than willing to give it to anyone, and tonight that's been brought up, so it'll be sitting on the desk.
Well, because you hear so many other people saying that your taxes aren't going to go up.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to know, are my taxes going to increase? And by how much?
And this is a form that's made up. There's also been people who have come to me with some financial planning, and there's some people at the county level, which I'm a member of that board, because every town supervisor in Seneca County sits on the county board, and there's going to be a look at, and then you have to get a hold of your county board members. There's going to be a look at it, sharing of sales taxes, but where that's going to go, that depends on the 14 members on the county board, and Brad Jones is one of the people who's working on that. So,
and I'm just concerned that if you do have local law in place, it is going to be harder to get more businesses in here, because if the tax rate is higher, they may not want to come here and pay those taxes, especially small businesses. They may not want to come here and pay those taxes because it's going to be, you have the minimum wage going up. It's going to be harder for people, for businesses to have employees because of the higher minimum wage. And then if you have higher taxes on top of that, it's going to be very hard to attract businesses into a small community like this when they have all that overhead. Thank you for listening.
I want to thank you for talking too, and that's one of the things why we're having forums and things like that, so that we can get an idea of what people are concerned about, so that we can actually find those answers when we plan, so that we can get back to you with absolute certainty when we plan.
Hi, my name's Rachel Weil. I'm a tax-paying, property-owning resident of Seneca Falls. I wanted to say a few things. First of all, I wanted to thank you for having the hearing and also for managing to let all of us speak. I also want to say that I really have been impressed by the workers from Seneca Falls, both the ones I've dealt with and the ones who have spoken here tonight. I really believe that you are doing a good job. I see you care about the place. I also see that the fear of losing your job must be terrible. I would like Seneca Falls to be a community that has good jobs, a lot of good jobs, not just good jobs in one place for people. I want to talk about the day of the It's a Wonderful Life Festival last December. It's something that is hugely important for downtown business owners. It brings thousands and thousands of people into town for a very short period of time, because we all think this is the inspiration for Bedford Falls. And during the It's a Wonderful Life Festival this past December, it stank. And I got really worried. I live about 2 blocks from downtown. It's not really that close to the dump. And that was the day I started thinking about how fast I could sell my house. And I started thinking about how I was going to convince people to buy my house, and could I only show it on windy, rainy days, or maybe days when it's really, really cold, or only show it to people who had no sense of smell. Because I'm really worried about the value of my house. I actually have felt since then reluctant to put money into my house because I'm not sure whether it matters that it's a nice house. And so I'm not talking, I'm not constructing stories about cancer or things I can't see. I'm talking about the smell, which I can smell, and the impact on people, and the long-term impact on the value of my property, which I worry about more than I worry about taxes. This is the thing that I'd like the town board to think about. We've been told about the immediate impact of Seneca Meadows leaving on our taxes, on the Waterloo schools, on all kinds of things. And I hear all of that, but then I think, so does this mean we have to let Seneca Meadows stay here forever? Is there going to be an end date? Because if we are so scared of what's going to happen on the day that Seneca Meadows closes, the logical step to take is that then Seneca Meadows will be here forever, and there won't just be 2 or 3 garbage mountains. There will be dozens of garbage mountains. So I think we need to think about the end date, and the gentleman who spoke from the financial analysis firm in Rochester told us that something bad would happen if Seneca Meadows left next year, but didn't say something less bad would happen if Seneca Meadows left in 2030 or 2033 or 2043 or long after I'm dead. I mean, there is going to be a moment when Seneca Meadows, there might be a moment when Seneca Meadows, there might never be a moment when Seneca Meadows closes, and that really scares me. And if there is a moment when Seneca Meadows closes, we need to think about what we're going to do about that and how we're going to handle it. And to me, it's not that important whether it's 2017 or 2023 or something in between, but it's really important that there is a date. I have heard people say that Local Law 7 is something that is going to help us arrive at and manage a date. And if that's the case, I support it. Thanks for listening.
Anyone else? Mr. Jones.
Your words spoke volumes. I don't know your name, but thank you for sharing it. I wasn't going to share this discussion, but I'd like to have a discussion with the board. I know it's late. Many of our residents have left, but I had the opportunity back on September 8th to visit with Scott Fody, Region 8, DEC, Avon, New York. And I still remember going to Avon, sitting out in front of the DEC office saying, why am I going with questions? Why are the town officials? But I come from the school of thought it's better to talk with facts than emotions. I want to be the first one to say, and say it loud and clear, thank you, SMI, for everything you've done for our community. But what I learned back on September 8th, I'm going to share this evening. I see the press is here, but I really want to be talking to the 5 people that have to make the decision. Fact-checking is required in this day and age. I met Scott Fody, and by the way, these are my words, these are not Scott's. He did share some items with me that I'll give him the accolades or the credit for. But at the end of the day, these are my words. we started talking about epidemics. And the first one, I think somebody referenced it earlier, child obesity. I think we all agree with that. Heroin overdosing, whether it's Seneca County or any place in New York State, epidemic proportions. And then Scott himself even said, well, Brad, what about waste? That epidemic may be bigger than anything we've ever seen. And I just said, yeah, I know we've got a landfill and we don't want it in our backyard, but nobody else wants it in their backyard. He shared these facts with me, so feel free. Number of landfills in New York State 10 years ago, 410. Number of landfills in New York State today, 36. Number of landfills, new landfills, built or opened in the last 10 years, 0. So 410 down to 36. I think we probably could say, or we could assume those 36, like Seneca Meadows, they're mega landfills. So it looks like we're gonna put our waste in fewer places and make mountains grow. We also talked about New York State. This was new to me. You may want to check this fact out too. New York State is the #1 state in the export of waste and garbage. And I said, hold on. I think you got that wrong. We import, because we know we import it from other states. I think I've even been told we import it from Canada. And he said, no, you're right, we import, but New York State is the biggest exporter. And it goes to Ohio, it goes to Virginia, and it goes to Pennsylvania. Scott shared with me in so many words, Brad, you don't want it in your backyard. Nobody wants it in their backyard. And one of these days, it may be an epidemic where Ohio or Pennsylvania says, enough is enough. You've heard us say, enough is enough. So, without him saying it, I'm thinking to myself, 410 down to 36. Seneca Meadows probably has a better chance of getting bigger and bigger and mega than maybe falling by the wayside. I also talked to him about the trash train. I was curious on that. Once again, this is fact. SMI, I think Mr. Black made the comment that being a valued customer or a valued neighbor, they pulled the contract. It was verified that New York City pulled the contract. Once again, fact.
It's absolutely not, that's not fact.
Okay, hold on for a second.
I'm not gonna hold on, Brad, that's not fact.
Okay, it's being redirected, and this is Region 2, being redirected to one of those other 35 landfills. And this is when the light started going off, saying,
Because we walked away from the contract. That's why it's being directed. Please don't twist the facts.
I'm not twisting
Yes,
the
you
fact. Well, I'll tell you what, don't point at me and you can come up here in a second.
You have a piece of paper that produces that fact.
Okay?
You have an email.
And I also have a promise from somebody at the DEC office is once that garbage is redirected to another landfill, they'll give us the name of who it is. And there's probably a very good chance it's progressive.
Answer my question, please. Do you have the
When
facts?
I'm done, let me walk through this. This is my dialogue with the board.
Very good.
By the way, it was also shared with me that SMI cannot sue the town of Seneca Falls. And the reason I say that is they're in violation of the host agreement. We're not in violation of the host agreement. So these are some facts that I welcome anybody. I don't stand up here and just give false information. So then the discussion, and this is when the antenna went up and the lights went off. Seneca Falls, and you heard it from earlier about local law, having the opportunity more so than the state. That's today, that's current state. You may have just read what happened in the state of Maine. In Maine, no towns, no counties are in control of waste. And the reason being is similar to us, 410 down to 36. You probably could assume that maybe someday, and I'm not blaming this on SMI, I'm blaming it on Progressive Waste Management, whoever the new acquired firm is. They have a bigger plan than maybe even Mr. Black or any of you employees fully realize. Progressive Waste is corporate citizen, is a business to make money. I was asking questions saying, why would they come in here and acquire SMI, one of the 36 mega landfills, knowing that there's going to be a closure date? That's when more light's going off. These are my comments. These are not facts that Mr. Fode's shared with me. We could assume, and this is probably the pressure that's coming from senior management at SMI, that, and one gentleman mentioned it earlier this evening, they're just hoping that this town board kicks the can down the road one more time. Because if we can kick the can down the road one more time, guess what? In 2023, 2025, the trash train was coming up here for 30 years. I'd like to say maybe Progressive Waste was at that table talking about it. So the reason I bring it up is there's meetings going on much higher than here in town Seneca Falls or up there on 414. We could assume that carjack, this is something Mr. Fode, once again, it's a fact, he didn't realize that SMI paid $4 million for a building across the street. I'm not saying SMI paid $4 million, but we probably could assume that Progressive Waste Management said, let's buy the other side of 414 because of Mountain 4, 5, and 6. Once again, these are my words, but you know, a lot of things are coming to my mind when they say, this may be the only time the town of Seneca Falls has a say in its future. And that's the message I want to give to you this evening. This may be the only time to put a local law into effect. Because in 2020 or 2023, it may be at the New York State level. Another fact that I learned, and Greg, this maybe help you with your decision. You had mentioned earlier about the DEC, the EPA versus the professor or the fellow that did the guest editorial. I asked Mr. Fode direct, I said, how much say do you have? He said, well, actually, we report to appointees at the state level. That sent off another antenna that, you know, here's a chemical engineer that does his job day in and day out, but really the decision at the end of the day is probably made in Albany. The middle of the horseshoe, we talked about it. David, you had brought it up, the old Tantella site. I call them mountains 1, 2, and 3. I think, Kyle, you would call them cells 1, 2, and 3, but it was told to me in so many words, the center of that horseshoe, it would take years, if not forever, to fill the center of that horseshoe. If that isn't alarming, then I got a bridge to sell you. Think about it. This horseshoe, Tantello, keep filling that up. Once again, nothing to do with SMI or nothing to do with SMI employees, but I'm saying to myself, Progressive Waste, they acquire SMI, they're redirecting the train. Not to say the train won't be back on the tracks, because, you know, a lot of lights are going off. But once again, I took the time out of my schedule to go to Avon to spend 2 hours, and I ask you, and Scott welcomes you to come up and ask these questions too, and verify the facts. So whether it's tar jacks, the train tracks, the trash train proposal for 30 years, years on top of years, you, as our representatives, probably will have this one say. Progressive Waste is just doing everything they can, spending money on flyers like this. This isn't coming out of SMI, this is coming out of corporate headquarters. These are expensive. So I ask you to give it some thought on the bigger picture. Then I asked my question, somebody had asked me the other day, why do you think he even reached out? By the way, he reached out to me to come to Avon, New York. I had sent him an email, and the only thing I can reference is cancer clusters or leachate. This dialogue on leachate goes directly to the 5 of you as our representatives. When I was mayor 20 years ago, our sewer lines were antiquated back then. And tell you what, I'll take some of the blame because I didn't do anything, basically kicked the can down to the 5 of you. We see everything being done for Del Lago, SMI, with all the new piping coming in to our pump station up on Route 5 and 20. And I say to myself, I've heard it in previous meetings, leachate concentration, or I think it's 75,000 gallons per day now, can go up tenfold, up to 750,000 gallons per day. And I'm thinking, yeah, it'll flow, and then what happens when it gets to these antiquated pipes? Our infrastructure across from Kinney Drugs down to our wastewater facility, that scares me. And this gentleman from Rochester that came down saying leachate, we should be talking about leachate. I haven't really talked about odor. I'm talking about the bigger picture where this mega landfill may become one of 20 or one of 15 or one of 10. And that's really where you need to be thinking about progressive waste in Albany making the final decision. Now, maybe 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I could stand up here and say, I told you so. I don't want to do that. I want to be here because of what I shared earlier about my kids and my grandchildren. But you have a big decision to make. You heard from Mrs. Porter that there's more teeth in a local law than a host agreement. We have volunteers that will work very closely with you to come up with a budget, whether it's 2017 and 2018. We can find the money. Lastly, and I point this out, and this kind of goes back to the flyer. I do have to do an editorial to some extent. And this goes to the gentleman that gave the report from Rochester about how taxes would go up 2.5 times. So I don't have to foil, maybe one of you as a board member could share with the community on how the assessed rate, or how much the assessed rate went from prior administration, not on your plate, not on your time, prior administration, the drop in the assessment, the drop in taxes. I'm not talking tens of thousands of dollars, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Look into it. So when they say, boy, our taxes are going to go up in the future, that's just mumbo jumbo. I'm kind of looking at facts today. Our taxes have gone up the last 2 to 3 years because of their assessed rate. Check the facts. I think Mr. Black will. Then how about the drop in the host payment agreements? I was lucky enough through your senior account clerk to give you the information. The payouts each year seem to be less than what is budgeted for. So then Mr. Wayne, myself, we're paying more in town taxes. So I'm looking at what's happening today. So when Mr. Black says trusted neighbor, valued partner, I'm thinking, well, our taxes have gone up in 2015, 16, probably going to go up in 17 because of the assessment. The good news is I think we probably, now with a new parent company paying the dollars that they have, because of what we're seeing, what I'm sharing with you about this has a better chance of being a mega landfill / determining the future outside of U5, more at the state level. It's all starting to come together. So I just hope a new assessment, and maybe that's due shortly, we go back and take a look at the landfill, because if you pay big money for it, they probably should pay their taxes appropriately. So I wanted to have this dialogue. I know it was late, the press is here, these are facts, but there's a better chance by you kicking the can down the road, nobody sitting in this seat, whether it's 2017, 23, or 25, will ever be in the position to do what's right for the community. It will be done at the state level, and I just don't want to stay here until say I told you so. Thank you very much.
That'll be Kyle. Hour is getting late.
Where do I start with those facts, Brad? I'd like to see them on paper. I would like to see the facts of what you just said, on paper.
Facts,
proven.
410 down to 36 with no 10 land.
There's no doubt. That's a good fact.
Okay.
But what the fact you just talked about, that New York City pulled the contract, that's not true. That's not true. Absolutely not true.
Call Mr. Fody.
I don't have to call Mr. Fody. Mr. Fody didn't pull the contract. We did. From New York City. Mr. Fode had nothing to do with it.
Can you show it to us?
Yes, absolutely,
Right in.
absolutely.
So-
Taxes,
Press release
Taxes?
doesn't prove anything. A press release is just what you say happened.
It was shared with me at the DEC offices to downplay the chatter. The train was redirected.
the train has not been redirected.
I know it
There's no
hasn't.
train.
That is-
The trucks are still coming here
Tell you
today.
what, go ahead and say your
Well,
piece.
Brad,
I had the meeting.
there's no train on the rails, period. New York City is redoing their contract with somebody else.
I had a meeting.
Okay.
I have information. I shared
As
it.
far
I had
as,
the dialogue with
as
the
far
board.
as taxes and what Mr. Gardner presented, those are facts. Those are calculated facts by a third party that has no skin in the game.
Okay, but-
Those are the calculations. If the town board,
Would you be willing to sit down and talk about sharing a sales tax revenue?
absolutely,
Okay, would you be
absolutely.
down to share about, talking about how this town can take leachate and everything coming down those new lines and they are antiquated?
Absolutely. This,
Without a-
you were part of the study that proved that leachate was safe going to your facilities. Yes, you were.
I was the mayor that refused it.
No, you weren't, Brad. I got you. You were not. And that was studied to make sure that the pathway
Show me the minutes.
was proper for that to happen, just like with the sewer coming from Lago. So those are the facts.
I'm just,
When it comes to
my
the,
dialogue is with my representatives.
Well, no,
not
your
with-
dialogue
My
was to the
dialogue
press
is
and
with
to
the representatives
your
of our.
dialogue was to the whole community here, presenting what you term as facts.
Tell you what, I think I know a little about what's going on through our pipes. Look at the water main pipes that are breaking left and right. They're antiquated, and I'll
We're not
take
talking about water
responsibility.
lines.
Okay, we're talking about.
water. We're talking about sewer. Anyways,
Okay, wait a minute.
town taxes, town taxes,
I love it.
okay? And host community fees. Every year, the town puts that line item in. We don't have anything to do with that. That's the town line item.
You always pay.
That's
full
not ours.
amount.
We always pay. We always pay our taxes.
Full
We
amount.
always pay our host community fees. It's audited every year by the town.
Fact check.
The town does fact check it. The town audits it every year.
I feel very comfortable, so you've got some homework to do.
I don't need to do homework. I've already done my homework. I know the facts. I know
love you like a brother.
we've
We
paid,
agree to disagree on
we
facts.
have paid this town over $42 million the last 15 years. $42 million, Brad,
You
in
share,
host community
you share
fees.
with the community tonight on what you fought to get the assessment dropped and how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that took off our tax rolls. Can you share that?
It actually kept money on the tax rolls. We didn't ask for all the money back from either the school district, who really was the big benefactor from that, not the town. It was really the school district. And we allowed the school district to keep a large sum of that money. So, back to the host community fees. And this current board will have to deal with that, just like last year's board did. We deliver exactly the shared value as stipulated in the host community agreement. The host community agreement is a legal document that allows the town full purview of those revenues, full purview of our operating permit, full purview of all of these things. Open door policy, we've always had. With you, I've invited you many times.
I don't want to dump in my backyard. We've
Okay.
done our fair share. How many times did I tell you, I have no desire to
Okay.
go look at the inside of that
But come see,
horseshoe, that
the-
your
come see the
forward
facts.
plan
Come see
is
the
to
facts.
fill the hole.
Come see the facts.
I'm glad we're having this discussion, because I
Well,
think
good.
it's opening up a lot of eyes up.
Of course it is.
That's my reason. You're gonna
And
get one
these
chance.
eyes, and these eyes are continuing to be open to the facts.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think the chances are that New York State will do what the state of Maine just did?
I have no idea what the state of New York's gonna do. We live within the rules and regulations that this state and this town embarks upon us. Period, end of conversations. We follow it to a
Would you
T.
stand there and say there is a closure date then?
There is a closure date in the current host community agreement.
Okay.
It's 2025. The town board knows this, correct? They're all shaking their heads.
What's your
There's a date.
pre-closing plan? Your employees are worried about losing their jobs. What's your plan for them and when your estimated time of departure is?
When the landfill closes,
When is that?
currently it's 2025.
So
It's in the
what's
host
What's your
community
plan?
agreement.
What is your plan?
So
What's your plan for
let me just
employees
address your
and
other
other vendors?
mega landfill moving across the road thing. And this town board knows this, you know this,
So-
anybody knows, there's not the proper zoning to do that.
Tell you what,
There's not the proper zoning to do that.
this is a loud fact check. I'm glad we're having this
So
discussion.
the zoning is
New York
only
State
in the
is
current
called
footprint.
eminent domain. Fact check. New York State, whether it's the state or federal, eminent domain, they can change those zoning requirements, and that was something that was discussed in Avon, New York. You're correct. Today, the landfill can't go across the street because they're in control of the zoning. However, year 10, year 15 from now, if the state comes in just saying, "Hey, you know what, we're down to 13 mega landfills, and tell you what, yeah, we don't want it in our backyard, but Seneca Meadows or whoever your parent company is then is gonna say, no, yeah, we're all for eminent domain, and maybe it was a good business decision to buy Tarjac." Who in this room can sit and sleep at night thinking that you paid $4 million for a building that's assessed for $600,000 without a master plan? This may not be yours, and that's why I'm saying, I thank SMI for everything. My dad used to tell me if it smells like a skunk, it most likely is a skunk. There's a plan across the street, and that plan may have started 10 years ago. I'm just sharing this dialogue with the board to tell you, as a citizen, you get one chance.
And this plan was hatched 10 years ago in '07. It's called the current host community agreement. And that puts for the closure of the landfill and date certainty. You already have that. The board has that. They don't need the local law to do that. They have it right now.
Seneca Energy, more generators.
Seneca Energy.
everything. That's
Seneca
because
Energy.
they're gonna close, that's gonna.
Putting energy on the grid, renewable energy on the grid. That's a bad thing?
Corporate America saying better chance of this landfill being bigger, mega, bigger. Thus,
No.
corporate America is
No.
going to make money. I'm glad we're having these dialogues, bringing a lot out.
Great. Again, back to the fees. We have always paid the fees and taxes that we are required to. We have never not delivered the appropriate amount to the town of Seneca Falls.
I asked any one of these 5 members at Tuesday's board meeting what they were assessed, what they went to court, and what did we as a taxpayer base lose? Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So Brendan, let Kyle finish. He stopped talking when you were talking.
You're right. No,
Let's have
thank you,
courtesy
John.
to let Kyle finish.
Thank you.
So again, the way the host community fees are delivered, it's a 5.5% revenue share. Are we not ahead of, if you do some calculations, are we not ahead of the game this year?
Yes.
Yes, last year, David knows this, forthcoming, I stood up here last year when Don Earl, Abel Bogey, David, correct, asked that question. The first 2 payments were a little bit behind, but the last 2 payments brought the payments to where they were. I can't explain, because I was not here, and part of the number that was put in that budget. It was $2.8 million. We delivered almost 2.4. And that money,
That was talked about, and they did a 5-year average, and that's where they came up with 2.8. Bev admitted to me that was her and Don's fault, that they put the 2.8.
David, thank you very much.
And we were short the 500,000 that we had to borrow over.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I really appreciate you letting everybody know that, because we took a lot of heat for that.
And shame on that board shame on anybody for thinking you're gonna get so much money and you just figured that's what you're getting and then you spend it.
Right.
That was the board.
Shame on
And to take that a step further, this open communication, that's what we needed to have. We needed to have these open communications so we can explain to the board, this is what we think we're going to deliver. And if we deliver more, great. If we don't deliver as much, we'll be the first one to tell you. It's open and transparency. That's what everybody wants. That's what we have. We've always been that way.
That's why-
There's no hiding facts. There's no hiding any of that.
Transparency, that's why I think the volume you should make a visit.
But Kyle, I got one question for you.
Sure.
Host agreement, right now is 2025. 2027 or 2023. Why are you afraid of Law 7 or Law 2, whatever it's going to be? it says you already have a closure date, and that law is not going to say 2017. It's going to have 2025 or 2027 or whatever date. But I have a supervisor telling me if we put that law in, they're going to sue us. Well, you already got a closure date, and all that law is saying you're done in 2025 or 2027. Why would you say you're going to sue us?
The current law as written, handed to you by Mr. Zemelis, states that no future solid waste facilities are allowed past their current permit. You all know our current permit has not been renewed yet. It's in the process, but it has not been renewed. So the interpretation, the legal interpretation of that is in theory, in October 17, if the DEC did not have our permit renewal completed, we would have to shut. That's what the law says. And you would have to
I
hold
agree
us to
with you on
law.
that, but if we...
Then rewrite the law. Then
That's what I'm saying.
The law should have been rewrote to begin with, then, if the board's intent was to just maintain 2023, 2025, whatever. Why did that 2017 have to be in there?
2017, the date is not in there.
It is in there, Annette. It's in the law.
He's saying it's in the written words.
It is. It's in the written law.
But this is why we're having the forum, because the law could be changed. Because this is what we're going through, getting all this input from everybody. And I'm saying is, and I've been saying it right along, if your closure date is 2025 or the DEC gives you a 10-year permit and ends up 2027, I just want to have in that law that whatever years that the DEC gives you, if they want to give you 8 years and it goes to 2025, or they give you a 10-year permit for 2027, that law is just going to have that in there that you're done. That's it. And I can't see getting sued over that.
Well, and that law is something that we can talk about, but that's not the law that was on the table, ready to be in a public hearing to be voted upon. That's not the law. And as was pointed out earlier tonight, you can't just change that law and then move forward with it.
This is a
You have
proposed
process.
law, and it's a forum, so that's why
I
we
know,
want to do
I
it
know.
that way.
Totally
so we
agree.
could get.
This is what I'm saying.
I understand.
This is my thought on it. I don't know about the rest of the board, but my thought is because we do have a host agreement with you.
Yes.
And we're negotiating one right now. Everybody knows that. But if it comes out 2025 or 2027, I just want the local law to have it in there that that's going to be it at that date, 2025, 2027, not this 2017. Because I'm telling people, we're not going to I'm not out there to shut them down right now in 2017. It gives us time to do our financial that we know in 2025 or 2017 that the future boards have to go through the financial, or maybe we'll get more businesses in or whatever. And it gives you people time for your workers that if you want to ship them off to other landfills, or I know businesses close up and they get help for their people to get jobs close to what they're doing now in construction or whatever.
I just want to leave one
But
last point.
that's not the law
Is
that's in
that
front of
you're
us.
kicking
The proposed
the can
law
down.
that's in front of us right now.
Yes, but that's proposed, but I'm saying it can be changed. Not to have 2017, that's what I want. I want it to go to 2025 or 2027. Not to shut you down, but just your closure, and you figure you can fill it by then, or you even said you might fill it earlier.
And the other thing, again, full transparency, we have also explained to the board, and the DEC will explain this as well, there is concern with this local law utilizing the penal code to control a land use issue. There's much concern to that, at both within our industry. Obviously, it should be obvious to everybody why we would not like this local law. It shuts the facility down at currently a premature date to getting the airspace as expended. So that said, if you do take Mr. Foti up, talk with the DEC about that, because they have concerns with it as well. You know, we can't talk out of both sides of our mouth. At one side of our mouth, we sit here and say, you, the board members, have full control. But when it's good for the DEC and the state to come in and take eminent domain, we're gonna talk about the eminent domain. I mean, we just wanna work with the community, like we always have. That's the commitment we have had since I've been here. That's the commitment we will continue to have.
That's a commitment that I have as a town board member to do this and have an agreement.
This has been a beneficial thing for everybody. I know that's hard for a lot of people to
No, it
understand.
hasn't.
Well, yes,
I'm sorry, Kyle.
Barb.
51 million tons of trash
Barb.
is enough.
Barb,
Yeah, it's not always.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Understood.
interrupt, but.
understood.
Okay, and our